Name dropping can be a powerful tool, both for good and for less good purposes. Everyone remembers the social engineering exploit that dropped a name that got them to where they wanted to be. But how can you strike the right balance, given that you might not always know what the other person is going to think of the name you dropped? So let's explore this week for Weekly Marketing Thoughts. Welcome, in fact, to Weekly Marketing Thoughts with CTG Intelligence, your weekly look at marketing, PR, business development for your business and your career. This week, let's spread this message. Spread it so that we can avoid bad name dropping. So I've got a nice quote. It's always good to, capture these nice sound bites. University of Georgia professor W. Keith Campbell said, an individual can look good to others and boost his or her own self-esteem associating with powerful people. Well, that's certainly the goal if you name drop, but things can go badly wrong if you don't use it correctly or tastefully or properly. If you only have a very short term goal, let's say you're a thief and you want to steal something, and all you need to do is trick someone, well, that's obviously nefarious and wrong, and we need to put a stop to it. But it's very short term, is what it is, because that name drop really only works once and it has to work. But there's a lesson that we can learn in that, because that name that they have dropped is in fact powerful enough to get them what they want. So what should we do? You've probably always, been conscious of when you go into a company and you're trying to sell something or you're trying to achieve something, and you drop a name, but have you considered what the other people think of that name? You don't know their internal office politics. You don't know that John or Jane, in fact, is not flavor of the month. You don't know that they got fired. So, every time you mention, oh, yes, I used to know John or Jane, they used to work where you are. You might think you're showing your knowledge, you're showing institutional memory, and there is always institutional memory. But is the person you're speaking to involved in that? Have you just done an inside joke that they don't get, and then you've alienated them? Have you brought up a topic about some person that was unceremoniously escorted out the building, but you don't know about it? So you don't actually know the power of the name you've dropped, unless you do, and then that's your goal. So let's think of three important areas to look at. One, timing and context matters. When are you using this name? What has happened to that name? And how genuine is your association with that name? Because if it's not genuine, you're going to be found out pretty quick. If you said, well, the CEO told me to tell you X, Y, and Z, and if he or she didn't, then you're in a little bit of a pickle pretty quickly. So genuineness matters, timing matters, and context matters. How are you doing it? Are you writing it in an email for all to see, or is it something that you've just got in that moment? Secondly, think how tactfully and subtle you can be, because name dropping is not wrong. It's just how effective you think it is versus how effective it is. It is a bit of a spectrum. So you have to drop names tactfully. You don't say in an interview, the CEO is my friend's father, because then, of course, nepotism arises and maybe you shouldn't even be going for that job. But anyway, that's, you know, maybe in the context of talking about your skills and your suitability, you saw that John Smith or Jane Doe were doing some excellent work. That's quite subtle. You saw that they were doing it, or they inspired you when you spoke to them at a conference and they told you to move in this direction in your career. But put it in context, make it tactful, and be tactful about what they perceive them to be, because you might again be thinking, I'm going to show my great knowledge about the 10-year history I've had with this company. Well, how long has the person you've been talking to been there? Are they going to think of your name dropping as a bad smell? Are they going to think, if I bring this person in, I won't be rewarded because they have connections to other people and I will lose this, new contact. I'd rather not take the chance. So that brings us to point number 3. What do others think of your contacts? And this is very difficult because if you're speaking to one person, there's a reasonable chance that you can gauge what they're going to think. You could do your research, you could find out if they know them and perhaps if they like them. But if you have a room full of people and you are unsure about who is who in the decision-making unit, then you have no idea how this name dropping is going to go down. So think long and hard about when and how you should do this, because my good friend, Lee Orton, if I was to talk to other people in the Getting Security Done crew and I said, Lee has very kindly spoken at a number of events and I'd like you to also speak at one of these events. Oh, I'm reasonably confident that all of them will be very, very pleased that Lee has spoken at things, because they all love Lee. We all love Lee. Shout out to Lee. But if there was maybe another organization and I wasn't sure, then maybe I shouldn't do it. And it's very tempting, but it's narcissistic to try and associate with these powerful people when you have no idea how powerful they are or who likes them. It could be that you're going to name drop someone who has caused significant harm to the company. I can think of one example when I saw somebody name drop a former service person who was not flavor of the month. And I saw it firsthand how that went down. So make your interlocutor, the person you're speaking with, the important person maybe that you're name dropping, because they're most likely going to like themselves. And so if I spoke to Jane Doe or John Smith and I talked about them to them and all the wonderful things that they have been doing, I mean, that's a much better and safer bet anyway, because you've got to think, what is in it for the other person. And as I said, name dropping is a spectrum from the scurrilous, social engineering exploit through to the everyday, well, it is real credibility. And I need this credibility and it is right that I should have it because this person has bestowed it upon me. Right. So don't think of this as always on the dark side. It is in fact a spectrum, and a lot of it is on the light side. But make sure that you are super confident about how the person will react to the name that you have dropped. And if you're not confident, make that person the name that you are dropping and make it all about them, because after all, we are only human and we do like to have a good impression of ourselves. So what's wrong with highlighting the wonderful virtues of the person you're speaking to? It's just human nature. So that's all for this week. I hope you liked it. Again, shout out to the GSD crew. Perhaps you like my new black background. Please comment if you do. I'm sort of taking it on a bit of a different journey now for Security Weekly Marketing Thoughts. And yes, as I said at the beginning, please share it, because I think this is a message worth sharing. Feel free to name drop me, but I don't think it would go a long way. So just share it and spread the word. Thanks a lot. This has been Security Weekly Marketing Thoughts. I will see you next week.